to the top, and then I'll show you some of the equipment and walk you through what happens with it. Yeah.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Follow me.
Is it on now?
Do you want to go first with the camera?
Okay.
I'm recording it.
Okay.
Just lean in.
But they've got cushioning. It's starting to be more wet here, so be careful.
More and more challenging. What's upstairs?
So that's inside the roof, inside the cap, and so that is all the mechanical elements, essentially, that send the power from the sails down to the stones. Yes, so the flower making process starts on the top floor, which is why usually I bring everyone up here to start the tours. But just above us, where the water is kindly seeping down the stairs, that is inside the cap, or the roof. It's called an onion cap because of its shape. It needs a lick of paint, which is why it's leaking. We are expecting repairs to begin to the building as a whole at the start of November. So you have come just in time to avoid the closure of the building for a year. Yeah, it starts on the 3rd of November for 52 weeks. So during which time the majority of that work will actually be done to the cap, because there are failings in the structural timbers, basically, so the whole thing kind of needs a replace and a refresh, really. So, as I said, downstairs, the roof can rotate around on top of the brickwork. It just sits on top of an iron curve and just slides around, so it's not connected to anything, so if the wind gets too strong, it can sort of just get underneath and lift it like an umbrella. So we have had some sketchy moments where we've hit 60-mile-an-hour winds and the roof's been doing this, dancing about on top of the building, so yeah, so fingers crossed that does not happen tomorrow. So this is where the flower making process starts. We mill, or if we were currently milling, which we're not because we're waiting for the repairs to get done, ordinarily we would be milling 4 different types of grain, so wheat, spelt, rye and oats, into 6 different types of flour, because you can turn wheat into wholemeal and white flour, and you can turn spelt into wholemeal and white spelt. There's no point, or not much point, in doing that with the rye flour, because the flavour for the rye flour is actually in the bran content that gets removed when you turn it into white. So 4 different types of grain that we get in, and they come in 25 kilo sacks ordinarily. We usually buy it in a ton at a time, so that's 40 sacks. And when we want to mill anything, it's got to come all the way up here, using that chain hoist right there.
Oh, okay.
So I would chuck a bag on there, on the ground floor, and then just pull it so it forms all the way up through the floor, through the trapdoors, up to here. At which point I would chuck it in this machine, which is the cleaner. So this is probably one of the older machines in the building, early 1900s. As you can see, most of the stuff that is in here has been adapted to run on electricity, which is not original to the building. But without the modifications to make that happen, we'd never have any flour. So, yeah. So what happens with this is the wheat goes in the top, or any of the grain goes in the top, and it's basically a giant sieve with 3 tiers. So it takes out everything that's too big, comes into this bag here, everything that's too small goes down into that bucket down there, and everything is just the right size, goes downstairs through a hole in the floor, because that's what we want to turn into flour. So this thing is the reason, or this process is the reason we have the phrase separating the wheat from the chaff, because what you're doing is you're removing the chaff from the wheat. Okay, so we've got stuff like bits of sticks from farms, stones, you've got soil, you've got, occasionally there's some bugs in here, but we also need to keep an eye out for diseased grains as well. So we've got ergot and smut are the 2 main ones that we have to watch out for. Ergot is a hallucinogenic fungus, so we definitely don't want people eating that, because they'll start seeing pigs fly. It's not fun. Yeah, so we do quite heavily rely on this thing. Everything we buy in goes through this machine first. What I will do is turn it on so that you can see it, hear it, and feel it, because it does shake the floor. Right, there we go.
Hello, we are at the very top. Yeah, just be careful because the stairs are wet. Just be careful with that only.
The machine's about to switch on.
Yeah. We were really lost somewhere.
Hello?
It's been a long day. Wow.
It's time to
Okay.
be deafened
Are
by
we
the
in time?
equipment.
Yeah. Sorry.
You're on time.
Yeah, we got people.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. Sorry.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Good. How many more? 3 more?
Yeah, should be more. Yeah. We were at
Welcome.
the city center near, the campus.
That's a long way away.
We thought it was near. We thought it was near until we start walking now here, which is great. Okay. Do we still have more in now? Aaron, sorry.
Aaron? What?
Yeah, Aaron downstairs. Yeah. Because we were just thinking, was like, why nobody is here? We cannot hear anything. They were like, upstairs.
Yeah. Welcome. No.
Alright.
Just in time.
Yes.
So you're just gonna, yeah.
Just in time for the first
switch on the machine.
demonstration. Okay, so this is the cleaner, as I was explaining. It removes all the chaff and diseased grain that we don't want in the stuff that we turn into flour. Okay, it is a bit loud, it will shake the floor. Okay, so I'm going to count down before I turn it on. Don't touch this because it does spin.
Yeah, don't touch it.
3, 2, 1.
Can you do it one more time?
I couldn't hear it.
There we go. So
Very nice.
that's all that happens up here.
So how is that?
So it's basically a shaker. It
Yeah.
shakes horizontally and then separates
Yeah,
the wheat from
yeah.
the
So
chaff.
everything that's, like I said, too big or too small gets taken out, and all the stuff that's the right size. And I will say that the stuff that's the right size is not always grain. You can find grain-sized stones, but what gets through this is basically the contamination levels are negligible, so you'll never notice it once it's in the flour anyway. And if you turn it into white flour, all of that contamination gets removed anyway.
Brilliant.
So that was you originally driven by the wind as well? presumably?
Yes, yeah. So originally this kind of equipment would have been either hooked up to the mill to run on wind power, or it would have just been done by hand.
Okay. Yeah, so horses maybe are pulling off this.
So in terms of milling in general,
Yes.
we have both the Greeks and the Romans to thank. So the Greeks essentially developed the initial technologies for it, and then the Romans adapted it and increased production. So they started mass producing it. So what happened was, we will see something downstairs called a quern, which is a little hand device. Basically, the Romans got those and upscaled them and started using horses to turn them. And then they thought, why aren't we just using, water wheels to do it? So then they adapted water wheels to power the stones, and then later down the line came the wind power. We think the wind element was adopted from the Chinese sort of invention.
Yeah, I want to see that picture.
There's a loose connection there.
Maybe my great-grandfather.
So like I say, all of the equipment in here is powered by electricity now, but historically, typically on the wind, or the water if it was a water mill, or just by hand. Alright, so we'll follow the wheat downstairs.
One floor down, one floor down.
This again.
To be
Yes,
fair,
okay.
not much that happens on this floor, so.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think probably you need to be more careful on this
You
one.
guys look a bit dry.
This is more challenging than
Already dried. We were somewhere. Ow, it's Windmill.
It's a lot harder coming the way up.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. You can donate through the website and everything as well, so.
Is it live now or recording?
See, it's recording. Live will be choppy because I think the signal was blocking the blocks. So yeah, we've got recorded backup. So.
So the market is not far from here, right? No. It's like. We have to be the sleep break. Yeah.
Alright, this floor is not particularly that interesting, to be fair. Not a lot of work gets done on this floor at all. So basically, you can see the 3 wooden bins that we've got, with the chutes coming down from above. So those chutes are connected to the cleaner upstairs. So you've got the grain coming down one of these 2 chutes into the wooden bins. If we're expecting a really windy day, like tomorrow would be an excellent day if we could run it. I might want to fill one of those bins. Each one can hold half a ton, so 500 kilograms of grain. So if I fill all three, 1.5 tons, ready to go on a windy day. It prevents me from having to lift bags upstairs whilst the mill is actually running. Okay, so it just makes my working day, on the day of milling, that little bit easier. So I can mainly just deal with the flour rather than have to clean and check grain in the process. So we would normally prepare it a day or two in advance of when we're expecting to run the windmill.
Okay.
So do you just run the windmill on windy days, or do you kind of run a few times a week, or?
So it is pretty much whenever the wind is
Okay.
allowing.
Okay.
So it can operate anywhere between 15 and 50 miles an hour. So tomorrow would be a bit borderline too
Yeah.
strong. But we are waiting for repair works to be done, so at the moment we can't run it anyway.
Okay.
But yeah, so our average for the last 10 years or so has been maybe 40 times a year that we've actually been able to run the mill itself. Back in George Green's time, when this place was first built, they were in here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There would have been any sort of between 5 and 10 people working it on a rotation basis, and we don't have that today. We've got health and safety. We're not allowed to run it in low light levels. Our working hours are restricted. And, yeah, all sorts. Yeah.
Do you need to do risk assessment as well?
Oh yes, that's all me. I write all the risk assessments. I risk assess myself. I've not lost any fingers yet. So, from here, the wheat just makes its way downstairs again when it's operating. So it's pretty simple, just basically storage until it is windy.
And be careful, guys. Careful with this. On the way back. This looks more like you were saying, like an additional support of the. Everyone is here now?
It seems like less people.
They're still upstairs. This window has never been closed.
Oh no, it does close.
Does it close? Really?
You've just got to be quite brutal with it.
When was the last time you closed it?
I opened it this morning.
No, I gave up.
Leave it.
Leave it. Otherwise.
Sometimes the water does make the wood swell, so it might just be a bit stuck here. I might have to get the hammer to go and close it. But we'll see. Right, so this is really where the magic happens. Okay, so the power from the sails comes down to this large cog in the centre here, called the great spur wheel, which interlocks with these smaller gears called the stone nuts, which turns the quant and turns the stone at the bottom down here, and while all that is turning, our wheat is falling down here into the hopper and then out into the shoe here, which shapes the wheat into the centre of the stone. So I always like to say that you can think of these stones a bit like a jammy dodger biscuit. You've always got two stones together. Okay, so you've got a stone with a hole in on top, a stone with no hole in it on the bottom, and in the middle, where your jam and cream would be, and the biscuit is where the wheat and the flour goes. And as they, well, it's always the top one that moves. So the bottom, the bed stone is always static. The runner is the one that moves. And as it moves, it grinds the flour and then pushes it out to the edge to be scooped down to the next floor again. So I'm sure you're probably starting to become aware of the system that is in place, that there is a different process on every floor, and we try and use gravity to our advantage as much as possible. So these stones are made of quartz. They're French burr stones. From brand new, you're looking at about 750 kilograms. Ours is quite well used, so it's a bit lighter than that, probably closer to 500. And you've got the two together, so there's a good 1 ton here, 1 ton there, so it's got to be quite a strong floor to hold it all in place. Originally, before, well, back in George Green's time, it's believed to have had 3 sets of stones, but when the restoration occurred, they bought it. They just installed the 2 sets just to make enough space for people to walk round, basically. Yeah. I heard someone mention about cobwebs on the way downstairs. Not all of the webs that you see in here are made by spiders. So moths are a common problem for mills like this. It's a specific breed called a mill moth, and they basically like the dry atmosphere the flour creates, and they come out at night, and everywhere they land they leave a web behind. There is no reason for it really that we know of. It does look great at Halloween, but I just need to get in here a bit more often with a duster to clean up. Yeah. So shall we?
So these wooden
Oh,
transfer
yeah.
pipes or lines that you have, that's just how it was, that's why you kept them?
These?
Yes.
Yeah, the chutes, so that's where the grain comes down, yeah, and it would have been sort of, so we don't have any blueprints of the original building. Unfortunately, all of George Green's possessions were burned when he died, so what you see is sort of a best guess of the layout of the building, but systems like this are very typical of windmills and watermills.
Apart from the bricks, right? The bricks, they are still...
The bricks are the original.
The original one.
Yeah, yeah. You may see from the outside they've had lots of spot repairs over the years. So in some areas somebody's been a bit ridiculous and they've used cement instead of lime mortar on the bricks and stuff like that. Yeah, so, but yeah, the original brickwork, 218 years old, and hopefully as part of the works that we're going through in the coming year, they will address some of the pointing issues and the brick, because some of them are looking a little bit worse for wear now. Yeah.
So the gap that we see, that's from where you drop the grain to the next level?
Yeah, so the grain comes in the middle,
Yes.
in there, and the flour gets pushed out from the edge here.
Yes.
So the gap is there because that's where the flour builds up to be scooped around and down to the next floor. Yeah, yeah.
So is there a bit of quartz in your flour as well?
Yeah, so the stones do wear down over
Yeah.
time, and
Yeah.
obviously that contamination goes into the flour.
Yeah.
But again, like the cleaner, it's negligible, so you'll never really notice it.
So, what's the sort of age for these stones? So, when do you expect they would be replaced? Like another hundreds of years?
So these were about 30 years old and used when they went in.
Okay.
During
In
the
the 70s?
restoration in the 70s, 80s, yeah. So, and we're just about looking to replace that set, the West set. So, for us, 80 odd years, 90 odd years maybe.
Cool.
Back in George Green's time, they would have been used a lot more often, so they would have been swapped over a lot more frequently. Yeah. All right, shall we make our way down to the next floor?
Yeah.
You see a lot of millstones in the Peak District. So, would they not have got them from there instead of like us?
We will discuss that on the next floor.
Okay.
I've got a question.
Yes.
Do you actually still
So ordinarily we would. We're waiting for repairs to be done to the mill, so we can't mill until that's done. Yeah, but when the works are done, we'll be back milling our own flour on the windmill, not using these. Stones in the Peak District was mentioned, and you will see some stones leaning up against the wall over there. Now those are made of Derbyshire grit, which is a local sandstone quarry in Derbyshire. Okay, and the reason you find lots of them littering the countryside is because during the Industrial Revolution, when steam power became a prominent thing, wind and water power went defunct, really. So lots of places like this went out of business very, very quickly. There was no demand for the stones anymore, and the people that were quarrying them and making them basically just downed tools and walked off, and the businesses closed, and all of their products were left scattered in the countryside, essentially. Over the years, of course, people have been and moved them or taken them to put in their gardens, etc. But yeah, so that's why you see so many of them in the countryside. These sand, it's a softer stone than the quartz ones that we actually use, so you get a shorter lifespan out of one of these, maybe 40 to 50 years. But obviously they wear down faster, so high contamination levels. Frequently more often used for milling animal feed rather than products suitable for humans, really. So, as you can see, you've got the stones above you there and there, and our flour's going to be coming down shoots into the big sacks. Okay, wholemeal flour at this stage. So, if brown bread's your thing, that's the flour for you. If you want white flour, you have to take this wholemeal flour, chuck it in the dresser, the first machine that we saw on the ground floor, to sieve out the brown bits, leaving you with the white bit. So it takes 2 sacks of wholemeal to make 1 sack of white flour, which is why here at least the white flour is more expensive, because it takes longer to make and uses more of the original base product, the wheat grain, to produce. So just over here we've got a quern, which is something I mentioned further up the mill. It's the small set of millstones. So people would have had those in their kitchens before wind and water mills existed, and they would have chucked their wheat in there and just turned it by hand. They would have had to do that before they could make their bread or whatever they wanted to make, really. So that is a rotary quern. Before that one, they had the saddle quern, which was basically just one flat stone, one round stone, squash the grain. And then someone discovered that actually that's a more efficient way of doing it with the rotary quern. If you look up, you'll see a load of ironwork as well. So that is the regulator or the governor, and that changes the distance between the two stones. So not only does the stone rotate, it moves up and down as well, and that changes the fineness of the flour, so the consistency. Basically. Yeah, so that's the manual control for it, and the weighted device in the middle. So as the wind is not consistent, it gusts, it speeds up, it slows down, which means the mill speeds up and slows down, which has an effect on the quality of the flour. So sometimes it's nice and fine, and then if it suddenly speeds up, it's not being milled properly, so it gets a bit gritty. So what that does is it stops that happening by lowering the top stone when it gets faster. So the faster it's running, the closer the stones are together, and the wheat doesn't come through too quickly. It was, yeah. Yeah, if without that, I'd be on this sort of every 10 seconds. It was ridiculous. Yeah.
Has that got an extra weight just hanging on it?
It does, yeah, because it bounces around a bit too much when that's not on there. Yeah, just to stabilise it a bit, really. I think. But that weight was on there long before I started working here, and I've been here since 2013. Yes. Yeah, well, I think so. The chap that worked here before me, David, he'd been working here since the Restoration, so he was working here for 30 years before he retired. And essentially, without that weight on it, the arm here just keeps jumping up and down, so the stones don't settle. It's just, yeah. So without that, the stone would be jumping around all over the place, and you don't want that happening really, because if they touch each other and spark, you run the risk of explosion, because flour dust is combustible. Hence why we've got the Zone 20 EX labels everywhere.
I noticed those.
Yeah, it just tells everybody it's explosive, and the zones tells us how dangerous it might actually be. So upstairs was zone 22 because it's not that dangerous. Zone 20, again, not that dangerous. Upstairs was 21. Sorry, that's 22. 22 is the most dangerous because you just take that off and then it gets in the air because it just puffs out into the air, and that makes it more of a risk. Flour dust is also one of the leading causes of lung cancer in the country. So it's quite common for millers and bakers to develop lung cancer because obviously we're breathing dust in all the time. Modern flour factories have like vacuums hooked up to massive machines, so they don't have to suffer with that. It's just something that we traditional millers have to deal with because we can't obviously.
Do you have to get annually checked for that?
No.
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 What about putting in some HEPA filters or something like that?
So we do have dust masks
Yeah.
that we can wear. Unfortunately, it does make it difficult to speak to people on a visiting when it's running and your mouth's covered and you can't really shout over the equipment because it's running loud. It just makes life awkward, really. So generally, when no one's here, I would wear the masks whilst operating, but yeah, not when we're open to the public.
Do you have tools when it's operating? Yeah, people touring miles.
Oh yes, yeah. So as long as either myself or my trainee are available to run the mill and it's windy, we will run it even when the site's open and we've got school kids coming through. Yes, that is part of the Little Red Hen Trail for the 5-year-olds, to keep them entertained when they're here. Yes. So, we'll go down to the bottom floor.
Okay. We'll see, we'll see.
Still want to brave it?
Yeah, you?
I'm up for it, you're up for it, and everybody's up for it.
Thank you.
Yeah, that would be nice. Yeah, we can make donations. It's good to.
Yeah.
Probably not feeling
Alright, so this is the last machine in the process, flower dresser. Basically removes the brown bits from the wholemeal flour to leave us with a nice fine white bit out of that side there. It's just a giant sieve really, 3 grades of mesh and an open end. So, the finest mesh, and then we get out here what we would call middlings. Out of this one, middlings, and out of the end we get what's called bran. So if you've ever had bran flakes, or wheat bix, or shredded wheat, you've had bran. So we do sell bran when we're producing flour. We do sell the white flour, so both of which are human consumption. The middlings just goes as animal feed, good for pigs and chickens mainly. Obviously, during this process, you are removing the contamination from the stone content as the stones weigh down, but you are also removing the nutrition, which is why loads of bread from the supermarket are fortified with calcium, etc., because it's removed during this process. Squeak tells me it needs a bit of oil. There we go.
Would they have had something similar in George Green's day, or did they just have wholemeal?
So they would have had this kind of process.
Yeah.
So back when the workhouses were around, the rich people would have gotten the white flour,
Yeah.
and the poor people would have gotten the byproducts. So not even the wholemeal flour, but the byproducts of making the white flour. And so the poor people would have had really bad teeth because the higher stone content in the flour that they were using basically. But that is how also bleaching and adding chalk to white flour came about, because the whiter it was, the more you could sell it for basically. So, yeah. So it's not done anymore, but yeah, so back in George Green's time they would have had this process, but it would have been, again, hand or wind powered. That is just a brush sticking out of the holes.
Oh, okay.
There are brushes inside that sweep round to basically get rid of the flour, get the flour out of the drum, basically, so that we don't get stuff left in there.
So it has a bit of an incline, isn't it, for the flour
Yes,
to
yeah. So again, we're just relying on gravity to move the product down the drum. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I think that is all the time I've got. I'm afraid.
No, thank you.
Shall we give Andy a
Yes,
clap?
definitely.
Yes, thank you very much.
And also, yeah, if I say if you can support, so we can make donations, we can buy flour, I guess, as well. or no?
Yeah. So the flour we've got currently is from Shipton Mill.
Okay.
So that's a water mill based in Gloucestershire, but they sell the same flours that we would ordinarily do ourselves. So.
All right. Andy, also, can we take a photo with you as
That's
well?
fine. Yeah. Yeah.
Sounds good. Shall we take a group photo?
Yeah.
Maybe good to take it here.
Yeah.
Shall we, I don't know, whether some people stand here?
This would be fine.
Yeah.
Yes. Can I help you?
Also, let's give a clap of praise as well, who recorded that well.
Shall we standing this way then? How do we want?
Who's taking the photo? With mobile or we using the professional?
We can use
we're using the
the
professional one. Okay.
So shall we do it this way?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe some people like me would won't go. And I think you are tall, so yeah, sure. Chris,
Closer. Show it.
maybe here. Right. Everyone is smiling.
Everyone is in.
Great. Brilliant. Thank you. Andy, for donations, is it in this box?